oblongata. So in this we will cover the competency, external features of medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata is the caudalmost portion of brainstem. Its development is from myencephalon. It extends from inferior pontine sulcus to the beginning of spinal cord. Ventral surface. In the ventral surface there is anterior median fissure bordered on each side by pyramids. Olives are lateral to each pyramid. Hypoglossal nerve is seen as number of thin filaments arising from anterolateral sulcus between the pyramids and olives. Glossopharyngeal, vagus and accessory nerves arise from the groove lateral to the olives. Dorsal surface. Dorsal surface presents the posterior median sulcus between the right and left fasciculus gracilis and swellings formed by nucleus gracilis. Lateral to nucleus gracilis there is another swelling, nucleus cuneatus. Lateral to cuneatus there is another swelling, that is tuberculum cinereum, formed by descending tract of the trigeminal nerve. Then we go to competency, that is what are the features present at the transverse section of medulla at the level of 1. Pyramidal decussation, 2. sensory decussation, and 3rd at the level of inferior olivary nucleus. Pyramidal decussation. Medulla shape is similar to that of spinal cord. Its internal organization bears a resemblance to that of spinal cord, but there are some differences. Medullary pyramids occupy the anterior surface of caudal medulla, that you can see in the picture. Lateral columns are quite large in the cervical spinal cord, but as you can see, there are relatively few myelinated axons in the lateral part of medulla. At the level of pyramidal decussation, the axons in the pyramids not only cross the midline but also move laterally to enter the lateral columns of spinal cord, as you can see in the picture. A second difference between the spinal cord and the medulla is that in the spinal cord, the dorsal columns are made up of exclusively white matter. In the medulla, we see bundles of axons dorsally, but now cell groups, the dorsal column nuclei, have appeared in the same location. These nuclei are the secondary sensory nuclei, second order sensory nuclei. Spinal nucleus of trigeminal. A cell group that resembles the dorsal horn is also present in the caudal medulla. This is the nucleus known as spinal trigeminal nucleus. It is continuous with the dorsal horn of spinal cord and serves comparable functions. Now we go to see section at the level of motor decussation, and the following are present. So the cavity at this level is central canal. As you can see in the picture, the nuclei which are present at the level of motor decussation are gracilis nucleus, cuneate nucleus, spinal nucleus of trigeminal, and the accessory nerve. So these are the nuclei present at this level. Then we come to motor tracts. The motor tracts at pyramidal decussation or the pyramids. Then coming to sensory tracts, there is one spinal tract of trigeminal, then posterior and anterior spinocerebellar, which are located laterally, then lateral and anterior spinothalamic tract, which are just inside lateral surface, and also there are tracts, that is gracilis and cuneatus fasciculus. So only new addition, that is we are seeing in this tracts are spinal tract of trigeminal when compared to the spinal cord. Then we go to sensory decussation, and at the level of sensory decussation, the cavity is central canal, and the nuclei are, as you can see, gracile nucleus, cuneate nucleus, spinal nucleus of trigeminal, then spinal accessory, and the hypoglossal nucleus. So the nuclei are 5 here: gracilis, cuneatus, spinal nucleus of trigeminal, spinal accessory, and the hypoglossal nerve. Then coming to tracts, motor tracts. Motor tracts are again pyramids. Then one new tract is added here, that is decussation of medial lemniscus. That is the new tract added here. And the others are same, that is spinal tract of trigeminal, posterior and anterior spinocerebellar tracts, lateral and anterior spinothalamic tracts, and still the gracilis and cuneate fasciculus. So the new addition here is decussation of the medial lemniscus. Then we go to study at the level of inferior olliculus. What is inferior olliculus? Inferior olivary nucleus. It accounts for outward bulge seen superficially as in the inferior olive. The nucleus is the projection to the cerebellum. So it is one of the bulge structures lateral to the olive. Other features which are seen in the medulla are a prominent fiber bundle on the lateral surface of medulla, that is inferior cerebellar peduncle, as you can see in the picture. Then a thin roof of fourth ventricle, which you can see. So the ventricle is made up of pia mater, then ependyma and blood vessels, the floor and roof, and also tegmentum of the medulla that contains, that is floor of the medulla that contains different cell groups. So section at the level of inferior olivary nucleus, the cavity here is the fourth ventricle. The nuclei are, that is inferior olivary nucleus. Then spinal nucleus still continues. Then the new nucleus which are added are 8th, 9th are added. 11th and 12th were present earlier. And the nucleus which is added here is ambiguous, nucleus ambiguous, and the solitary nucleus and arcuate nuclei. So these are the different nuclei present at this level. Coming to tracts, tracts are still pyramids. Then in the sensory tracts we have spinal lemniscus. Then spinal tract of trigeminal. Then we have anterior spinocerebellar. Posterior spinocerebellar is not there because it left or entered into inferior cerebellar peduncle. And we also see that anterior and lateral spinothalamic tracts still continue. Then we go on to enumerate the cranial nerve nuclei in the medulla and their functional group. So in the picture we can see the different nuclei and the tracts. So this is a picture seen in the medulla at the level of inferior olivary nucleus. So structures in the medulla which we see, one is inferior olivary nucleus, which fibers project to the cerebellum. Then there is reticular formation, which is the brain's central integration and reflex center. We have medial longitudinal fasciculus, the bundle which allows for coordinated movement of our eyes, head and neck towards the source of light or sound. Then we have solitary tract, which is carrying visceral sensory information from our internal organs to the solitary nucleus. Then coming to nuclei which are present here, solitary nucleus, which receives viscerosensory information from the internal organs via the solitary tract. Then we have dorsal motor nucleus of the vagus, which projects visceromotor commands to our internal organs via the vagus nerve. And we have already seen that there was hypoglossal nucleus that innervates the muscles of the tongue. Then there is one area posterior that is in the back of medulla. So area posterior receives vomit inducing information from gastrointestinal tract via the vagus nerve. It is a chemical sensing center that triggers the vomiting reflex in response to vomit inducing substances in the blood. The area posterior is composed of the connective tissue, blood vessels and sensory neurons. Inferior alveolar nucleus, it is the major nucleus found at this level. It is located in the medulla. Its fibers, the fibers streaming out of its center head towards the cerebellar cortex. They are termed as climbing fibers. It provides highly excitatory stimulation to the Purkinje cells and help Purkinje cells into producing the proper coordinating firing that will result in coordinated motion or movement. Then there is reticular formation. It is a meshwork of nerve fibers containing large number of nerve cell bodies. It has control centers for basic functions such as respiration, cardiac rhythms, urination, bowel movements, sexual functions, pain modulation, sleep arousal and motor activity. As the nervous system's central integration and reflexive regions, it connects all these functions so that they work harmoniously together. Then we go on to study the anatomical basis and effects of medial and lateral medullary syndrome. Lateral medullary syndrome. The lateral medullary syndrome is also called as Wallenberg syndrome. It is also called posterior inferior cerebellar artery syndrome because it involves the artery, the posterior inferior cerebellar artery. It composes of several symptoms due to neurological disorders of the nuclei and the nerve tracts located in the lateral part of medulla. The underlying cause is usually infarction secondary to occlusion of the vertebral artery. So, in the lateral medullary syndrome, we see the following things. Involvement of vestibular nucleus causes nystagmus. Ipsilateral ataxia is caused by infarction of the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Vertigo from infarction of vestibular nuclei. Disease of spinocerebellar tract leads to limb ataxia and a feeling of falling towards the side of lesion. There can also be lesion of sympathetic fibers giving rise to ipsilateral Horner syndrome. There can be paralysis of the 9th and 10th cranial nerves resulting in paralysis of palate and vocal cord, and it is related with dysphagia, hoarseness and diminishing gag reflex. There can be loss of taste that stems from loss of or damage to nucleus and tractus solitarius. Nucleus ambiguus. The nucleus ambiguus supplies bronchial motor fibers that travel in the vagus to the muscles of the palate, pharynx and larynx. The nucleus ambiguus also supplies stylopharyngeus through the glossopharyngeal nerve. Infarction of the nucleus can cause breathy hoarseness, dysphagia, gag reflex is often decreased on the site of the lesion. Spinal nucleus trigeminal involvement results in ipsilateral loss of touch, pain and temperature sensation from the face because the primary sensory fibers do not cross before entering the nucleus. Involvement of the lateral spinothalamic tract results in contralateral deficits in pain and temperature sensation from the body. Then involvement of caudate and gracile nuclei are linked with numbness of ipsilateral arm, trunk and leg. There can be triad of Horner syndrome, ipsilateral ataxia and contralateral hemiplegia in lateral medullary syndrome. Hemimedullary syndrome combines the clinical features of lateral and medial medullary infarction as a result of hemi-infarction of the medulla. Then we go to medial medullary syndrome. Medial medullary syndrome infarctions are rare and represent only 1% of ischemic strokes. They are mostly frequently caused by vertebral atherosclerosis or occlusion of penetrating branches. So in medial medullary syndrome, we see unilateral infarction typically presents contralateral hemiparesis, sparing the face because it involves only the corticospinal tract. There can be ipsilateral tongue paralysis due to involvement of the 12th cranial nerve and also contralateral sensory impairment because of the involvement of the medial lemniscus. Thank you.